Hey guys, it's Kevin again. This is going to be my review for the second episode of Finding Carter, because I did show two separate episodes last night. Season 1, Episode 2, The Birds. And this episode, I really enjoyed it. I really loved it. I still thought it was an amazing episode. However, I did have a problem with this episode, which was the beginning. I thought it was pointless to show the beginning of this episode because, I just thought it was pointless because it would have been more unexpected if it happened in the episode. So Carter's, dancing around, and basically she's having fun. When Max shows up, she hugs him and is thrilled to see him. She kisses Gabe, and she's very, tipsy. And, we see Taylor saying being high isn't cute or cool. And then Carter has a seizure, and then we go back to 4 days earlier. I just thought that first scene was, completely pointless, in my opinion. That's my only thing. I wasn't a huge fan of that. But we see Carter looking at a photo of her and Lori, and she thinks about their time together and how much love they shared. Because, remember, Lori was there to tell her that she loved her at that yogurt place. So, Elizabeth calls Carter downstairs and it says it's time to go. And David gives her a look and tells Taylor to bring up her issues and family therapy together. And Grant says he's happy she's there. And she comes in, and Liz says she can't go to school. She can't go to school in her PJs, and she puts on a skirt. As David and Elizabeth leave the room, arguing over who will drive the kids, and Taylor asks if she just pretended to be wearing PJs to annoy their mom. And Carter says that was just a distraction. She then grabs Elizabeth's car keys and says this is to annoy her, and asks if they want to ride. And Taylor tells Grant not to model behavior on Carter. And at school, Carter then sits in class, and we see her in school finally, and the teacher says they are on a zero policy system with points for infractions. He tells another student to put away her yogurt and says she gets a point, and Carter starts breathing heavily, and then she freaks out. The teacher tells Gabe to take her to the office to call her parents, and out in the hall, she stops and says she's fine, and says to stop calling Elizabeth her mom, and she says to stop telling people his dad almost arrested, his dad almost arrested her, kidnapped her mom, says she's just her mom. And he offers to take her into the city since they scored the day off. And she says Taylor will be furious if she finds out they spent the day together. But Gabe says she won't find out. But then Taylor sees them and glares. And obviously Taylor's really upset about this. So Carter looks down at some other kids and asks how it is. And Gabe says they call him OFE for one freaking eyebrow, and she goes down to talk to him, and I thought that was kind of funny. Now OFE is running a gambling pool on when they will catch her mom, and OFE introduces himself, and his friend Bird is there. That's why the episode is called The Bird, I think. And she says that they met at the party, and she asks why he has a photo of her mom, and he says he's a bookie. He says he also runs fun novelty pools. She's not sure why he has that photo, and I was like, why does he have that photo? Because he collects stuff. And Ovi says most people are giving her at least 6 months before she gets caught. And Carter walks away and says she's going somewhere where she doesn't have to think about how bad her life sucks. And Bird tells her she knows just the place. She takes her to her art studio she has in a trailer that her parents gave her as a birthday gift. And she's an artist and also throws parties in her studio. By the way, the one that plays Bird was in the show My Babysitter's a Vampire. Yes, I did watch that show on Disney Channel. But she was on that show, and she's very good in this as well. Forgot to say. She has to borrow her foam bird finger to use at a family therapy. But Bird says her family tried that, and it sucked. And Carter tells Bird that her art studio is bigger than her apartment she had with her mom, and she says she got fired from the frozen yogurt shop because people don't like being watched. She says she doesn't know how her mom can get in touch with the FBI up her ass, and Gabe says they can send a fake text to her phone from her mom on a burner phone, and Ophi has a burner, and they send a text to her phone that says, love you more, and Gabe says that's phase 1. So at family therapy, Elizabeth says she was angry that she took her car keys and reacted badly. She says she went into her room and found the backpack in her room that looks like she's ready to run away. And Elizabeth says she can't go through it again. And the therapist asks how it was. And she's not speaking to anyone right now. This is like a practice round to see, what she's going to say. Because later they're going to have therapy. And I thought this was a good scene. Because you kind of got to see what Elizabeth does think of Carter. And the next day, David tells Elizabeth that if they want Carter to come to therapy, they can't be mad at her for not coming to therapy. And I can definitely understand what he's trying to say. He's trying to say to her, hey, it's really her choice if she wants to come to therapy or not, and if she doesn't come, don't be surprised. So Carter comes in, and Liz asks if she stole her car since it's not there, And Carter has the middle finger toy, and Elizabeth chews her out for skipping family therapy and says they're taking the bus. And Elizabeth says they have to deal with this, and Carter says she doesn't like being called this. Carter says she got a little drunk, so she didn't drive. And David says that's responsible, but Elizabeth says she's stealing her car, and that getting drunk is responsible. Then David agrees that it's not. And it's just like, I understand her reasoning here, but there's things that she was used to, and that's why she's doing them. So, Elizabeth wants the foam middle finger gone, and Carter takes it when she goes to grab a ride with Gabe, and Elizabeth asks David if she put her on her car. And he says she didn't, and says it's a good sign, but then maybe she feels bad about it. But then we see she's stuck to the front door of the house on her way out. And at the police station, Kyle tells Elizabeth she looks very stressed, and he says he still cares about her, and she admits it's not easy. He says Lori has been sending text messages to Carter's cell phone from burners, and says they're local, and he tells her to keep an eye out on Carter. And Elizabeth, in the meantime, has Max in the interview room, and she asks if she can tape it, and he agrees, and she turns the camera on because she doesn't know, if she can trust Max. She doesn't know if Max was, in on it. She wants to know what's going on with Max, but he's freaking out, and he says he wants to say he liked Lori and her other mom, and Elizabeth said she's not her mom, she's her kidnapper. And Max says he's not objective. He says he sees what Carter means about her, and he says he heard she never laughs. And he says Carter says she's a person that never laughs, and then brags about it. And Elizabeth turns the camera off and asks what else she says about her. And at home, Carter asks Taylor what's for dinner, and she tells her that they should be eating more junk food because that's what she used to eat with her mom. In the beginning of the episode, her mom, the beginning of the first episode, her kidnapper even said to her, I wish, I'm a terrible mom, I'm giving you ice cream. And Elizabeth then comes in and asks what smells good, and she says she brought home a guest, and she has Max there, and she introduces him to Taylor and Grant as Carter's siblings, and she says she invited Max to stay for a couple of days, and Max says his parents are okay with it, but didn't believe him that a cop invited him. And Carter asks if she really invited him there, and he says it was like a subpoena. And Carter is very annoyed by this. She says she's already monitoring her calls and emails, and now wants her friends to spy on her. And David then comes in as she's leaving, and she tells Liz now is the perfect time to put a bug in her room. And Grant then goes into Carter's closet and digs out her backpack and goes through it, and he's not happy. And Carter introduces Max to Gabe, Ophi, and Bird, and Gabe asks if he goes to school, and he says he's kind of been homeschooled without the school part. He says he was interrogated today by Elizabeth and Carter, and Carter says Gabe's dad was the one following them, and they tell him about their FBI sting. And Gabe says they are in phase 2 now, and says they are about to find out how it's going, and I thought this was actually very funny, their plan. Gabe then sends another text and says he knows how cops think. Elizabeth is then introduced to Grady from the FBI, who thinks the texts are coming from her kidnapper, and the first word of every sentence leads to a meeting at the food court at the mall today. And Elizabeth says she wants to be there, but the captain tells Elizabeth to just keep an eye on Carter, and Elizabeth asks Kyle for help, but he says he won't let her lose Carter again. So then Elizabeth shows up to school and asks Taylor where Carter is, and she says she's not really going to school. She says she has everyone conned into thinking she has PTSD, so she can skip it. And Elizabeth then runs off, and Gabe, Ophi, and Bird head to the mall. Wow, Taylor's a bitch at this point. It looks like she's gonna, keep getting Carter in trouble. I mean, Taylor is just gonna keep getting her in trouble. So Elizabeth goes home in a huff, looks for the backpack, and it's gone, and she panics. Of course, as we know, Grant was the one that took it, because he didn't want her to run away. But David asks what's going on. She runs out in a panic. Carter comes in eating an apple and asks if there's peanut butter. And David says it's in the fridge. And she says it's weird. And Elizabeth never saw her. Then Elizabeth shows up at the mall and tells the captain her escape backpack is missing. And that she's not at school. And Kyle prowls the food court. Elizabeth walks around too. And Gabe tells his friends on 3. And Elizabeth says something doesn't seem right. Flashes a light, and everyone in the food court raises a foam middle finger, and I thought that was honestly really funny, definitely. And the captain tells her that the message seems to have been meant for her, and he said it's a good thing she was there to get to it, and Bird videos it for postery. And Carter watches the video and tells Max to watch it. She explains the setup and shows him what happens to Elizabeth. She laughs and says the best thing ever, and she laughs, and Max says she seems so sad. And basically she tells him that Liz is obsessed with putting her mom behind bars, and she says she got her back, but she's not happy with that, and won't leave Lori alone. She says she loves her mom more than anything, and she lives with someone who would kill her if she could. Honestly, I thought that, that was a great... I really love this whole storyline, because it's just like... She doesn't think of Elizabeth as her mom, because she doesn't treat her like her mom. She doesn't really listen to her daughter. She is much more stricter than Lori was, and Carter truly does love Lori. That's who she thinks her mom is, and I just felt really bad for her, honestly. And Carter says Elizabeth lives to punish her mom, and she knows how much it would hurt her, but couldn't care less. And Max says he didn't see it that way, and tells Carter she has to tell Elizabeth that she says her opinion doesn't matter to her, and he says that's not true. He says all of Elizabeth's questions in the interrogation room were about her. So she kind of thinks about this and wants to try to fix everything and kind of try to tell her what's going on. So Carter decides to go to family therapy and asks how it works, and she tells Taylor to go first, and Taylor says everyone finds her much more fascinating, and Carter says the only thing people find fascinating about her is that she was kidnapped, and David asks what she wants them to know. And then basically she has to tell them the truth. She says she has to do this with everyone watching. It's obvious that she doesn't fit with the family. And Grant says he also feels that way. And he says no one acknowledges him. And Taylor says she does. And Elizabeth says it's hard to hear what terrible parents they are. And Carter clarifies that David is not the issue. Because, when David, wanted to write the book, she asked him not to write the book. And he's not going to write the book. And Elizabeth says he's rubbing it in her face, but the therapist says she wants to talk about her mother. And Carter says Elizabeth isn't her mother. She's the person who's hunting her mother. And that's why Carter's so upset, really. And I think that's just a really great twist, honestly. Like, the way she's so attached to her mother. It makes sense, though, because imagine if you were raised with this woman for all these years. You thought she was your mother, but it turned out she was just your kidnapper. I would react the same way. I would. So later, Carter's at her desk when Grant comes in. She says that she should teach him to invite her to family therapy. And Grant says the last time they were there, Elizabeth made a speech to her empty chair about the day she came home and found she was gone. And Grant asks if she'll leave them again. And again, very sweet scene between the two of them. I really felt like Callie and Jude. I don't know what it was. I just felt like that. I just felt that way. And Carter says she doesn't know. And he asks her if she would go if Lori showed up. And Carter says Lori is her mom. And he says he's her brother. And Taylor's her sister. And David is her dad. He says that Liz found her escape backpack, and Elizabeth found her escape backpack, and she starts to freak out and says Elizabeth is insane for taking it. As we know, though, Grant was the one who took it. He doesn't want to admit he took it. And Carter says Elizabeth is doing everything to push her away. She says she has no idea what this is like for her, and is deliberately trying to make her mad, and says Elizabeth won't like her when she's mad. And then at Bird's, Carter plots to get revenge on Elizabeth and talks about cutting holes in her clothes, hiding her stuff. And Bird tells her that holding on to anger is bad and says she should just focus on being happy. And then Ophi offers her some Molly, which is a horrible drug if you guys ever take it. Do not take it. So many bad things happen to people if you take that drug. I'm just going to tell you guys right now. Don't take that drug. I've heard terrible things that have happened to people. People have tried to kill themselves with it. Like, just don't take it. But basically, Carter's used to taking drugs because her mother allowed her to. And he says she needs a vacation. And Bird says it's a very clean and good. And she says they get it from a guy named Crash. And Ovi says if drug dealers were on Yelp, he would be highly rated. And she says she won't do it alone, and Bird partakes too. And Ophi tells Gabe he needs to take no for an answer about Carter, but he says he can't. So Taylor and Maxon come into the party, and she says she's not happy about having to tell Carter that she's grounded. And Carter sees Max, runs and jumps, and just like the first scene, we see the first scene again. She sees Gabe, gives him a kiss right in front of Taylor, and then she notices Taylor glaring at her and says, whoops, and that she wasn't supposed to do that. She said that she looks like Liz when she makes that face, and Taylor says she's high and making a fool of herself. She says she liked her better when she thought she was dead, and Carter has a seizure. And then Taylor apologizes and says she didn't mean she didn't mean it. They tell her to call 911, and Carter then wakes up in the hospital, and Elizabeth is there and says she can't lose her again. In her haze, she actually thinks it's Lori, but, it's actually Elizabeth. And Carter sees David and Taylor there too, and she asks how long she's been there. And David then says 3 years, and then says he's kidding, and I was like, 3 years, what? I thought he was, serious about that. I was like, what? But he says it was just a little coma, but it was long enough to scare them to death. And Taylor, we can see, is really starting to really get jealous of her, because she says all the fun stuff happens to her: abduction, seizure, coma. And she asks Taylor if she really kissed Gabe, and she says she did. She tells her she doesn't like Gabe, and Taylor says she does, and she'll learn to live with it. And David and Taylor leave, and Elizabeth tells her, so yeah, there's definitely a lot of tension between them, and I like that personally. I know that a lot of people probably think, oh, it's just another love triangle, but I like it because it adds to her complications with her family. And David and Taylor leave, and Elizabeth tells her she won't stay, but wanted to give her this. It's a stuffed elephant that squeaks, and in family therapy, Carter has said she feels like an elephant in a family of penguins. So I think that was really cute, honestly. And then when she wakes up, Grant is in a chair by her bed, and she calls him Armadillo, because when they were in the family therapy, he said he feels like an armadillo. So they have this thing out where she goes, hey, Armadillo, and he goes, hey, Elephant. I thought it was definitely very cute. And he comes to sit on her bed, and he says he should have told her sooner, and maybe she wouldn't be here. And then he finally decides to admit to her that he was the one that took her backpack, and she asks why he did it. And he says he didn't want her to leave, and he really doesn't want her to die either. And he says he wants her to be someplace she's happy, and gets that it's not her, it's not here. And he gives her the backpack, and says he put a burner phone in there so she can call him, and she hugs him. And then the very last scene in the episode, this is very big, I don't know where this is going to go, but this is very big. So David meets Toby, and tells him Carter is going to be okay, and Toby says the great news is the publisher loves the sample chapter, and I'm like, wait a second, you didn't want to write that book. And David then plays a recording from the family therapy session. Toby says the next book will be huge, and David has this evil look on his face, and that's how it ends. Boom. Now here's what I'm kind of thinking. I kind of have this really sick theory, but it's weird, but I think you guys might like it. Okay. What if her parents that claim they're her parents are her actual kidnappers, and Lori is her actual mom? What if that social worker wasn't really a social worker? I don't know. This is just a really weird theory. But from that scene, that's what I'm thinking is going on here. I'm thinking, they took Taylor so they can write this book. I mean, they took in Carter so they can write this book about her, and they're making it seem like it's that her mother is this evil person. But we saw her mother's really has a lot to tell her. She says there's a lot you don't know. And, when she said that, I was kind of thinking about that. And especially in that last scene, I was thinking, okay, maybe her parents are lying to her. That's what I'm kind of thinking. I don't know. For me, personally, I just think that's what's going on. Is that her parents are lying to her. Now, we did see a promo for the next few episodes, and they look amazing. I think this show is absolutely amazing. I absolutely love the direction that this show is going in. I already think it's a perfect show. It really doesn't have any problems with me, except for that first, 5 minutes when they showed the same scene twice. I thought that was annoying. It wasn't like Switch of Birth where it actually had, it was more effective. In this show, it wasn't as effective with that. Now, what's going on with her and Elizabeth? We did see that they are starting to bond, but we're going to see what happens there. Are Elizabeth and Carter going to bond? I don't know. We're going to have to see. Now, Taylor and Carter, there's going to be a lot of tension between them because they both like the same guy. What is Taylor going to do to try, to not get Carter to like the guy that she likes? What's going to happen there? We're going to have to see. I'm very interested in seeing that storyline. I know a lot of people aren't, but I'm kind of interested. Grant and Carter, I really like them as brother and sister. He's very sweet to her. He's there for her. Most times they're really trashing about Elizabeth, but the thing is that they both have reasons to be upset, especially Carter. She has a lot of reasons to be upset, so I can see why they're trashing about Liz constantly. And honestly, if that gets them to talk, then so be it. So be it, they're talking. That's what matters. That's a good thing. Now, as far as Carter's friends go, they're into drugs. They're not going down a good path. Even though Carter went into a coma in this episode, Do you think something worse is going to happen to her? I don't know. We're going to have to see. And also, why is her dad still writing his book? Why is this happening? Why is he not listening to Carter? Is Carter actually, his daughter? Or is she just there for, like, publicity or something? I really don't know. But why is he still writing this book? Because she told him specifically, I don't want to be part of this book. I don't want to be in your book. You can write whatever you want to. Just don't worry about me. And he completely lied to her. So she's obviously going to find out at some point when the book gets published. We definitely have a lot of problems there. And it's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. I thought there was a very good twist. And just wow. I really enjoyed the show overall. I'm really looking forward to the next episode. And that's it for this review. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be my review for Tyrant. So I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.